Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Recently, Jussie Smollett, the star of the Fox minstrel show Empire, was allegedly assaulted by these alleged MAGA supporters who he says beat him up and then poured bleach on him, put a noose around his neck, all while making racial and homophobic slurs against him. And the reason why I say that these alleged MAGA supporters allegedly assaulted Jussie Smollett, and I'm using the term alleged, is because as I deconstruct all of the details regarding his alleged story, none of the facts are coming together in a consistent pattern. And as I look at the details of the facts regarding his story, they just don't add up as I see it, because your Jussie Smollett's actions, as I see it, before this entire incident speak louder than his words, and his actions before this incident make me believe that this is some sort of marketing stunt to get attention for his show Empire during the February sweeps. Now, your Jussie Smollett, before he went to Chicago a couple of days ago, received a threatening letter from an anonymous individual which had powder inside of it to make it look like it was anthrax. Now, I look at that incident right there, and I have some red flags there, because this young man receives a threatening letter with powder in it, and he doesn't think to go to call the Los Angeles Police Department and the FBI, because this type of letter is a terroristic threat, and it being sent through the mail is a federal offense because it's going across interstate lines. So he should have called the FBI and the police department almost immediately and filed reports with both of them. Now, your Jussie Smollett clearly knew that there were individuals making threats against him before he made this trip to Chicago, which he posted on social media and talked about this trip to Chicago. And you would think if somebody's making a threat against someone, they would take extra security with them, because I believe that this trip he was taking was for the show to film some location shots or whatever it was. And I'm sitting there saying, you have a threat against your life, but you didn't decide to take some extra security with you or hire some security. So that's a very serious red flag for me. Now, the timing of this incident also is quite questionable to me, because your Jussie Smollett went out of his apartment at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, 2 o'clock in the morning to go out to go get something to eat, I find that to be quite questionable in and of itself. He said he was going to Subway to go get a sandwich or something. But again, if you have somebody making a terroristic threat against you in California and you're traveling to Chicago, you wouldn't want to go out of your house by yourself. You would take some security with you, even if you were going on a food run, because you don't know if these individuals are out here targeting you. And what is also, again, questionable is he broadcast, after getting this terroristic threat, he broadcast where he's going to go on social media. So the alleged person who is supposed to be his attackers, they know where he's going, and they could have possibly followed him. So I'm looking at his actions, and they are quite questionable to me for someone who is supposedly gotten this terroristic threat in the mail, gotten this powder, but instead of him taking action to protect his own safety, like filing that police report in Los Angeles and contacting the FBI, he still decides to go on this trip to Chicago without extra security. So I have my doubts believing his story, especially him going out at 2 o'clock in the morning to this food place, and he's going to downtown Chicago. Now, downtown Chicago, like Midtown Manhattan here in New York, there are security cameras everywhere. So your Jussie Smollett is alleging that this assault transpired, yet no one can find a single piece of video in this downtown Chicago area that shows this assault transpiring. Because I would think if you had this threat against your life, you would again have your security with you, or even if you were crazy enough to go out by yourself, you would stay on those city streets that are heavily monitored by police and heavily patrolled by police. But your Jussie Smollett, he's saying that this assault transpired on downtown Chicago streets. And as I watched in a Tim Pool video, he was somebody who lived in Chicago. He talked about this area being a known area to have lots of cameras. Now, if this area is known to have lots of cameras, they would have clearly recorded this assault by these so-called MAGA supporters, and they would have recorded the assault in its entirety. However, no cameras in that downtown Chicago area have recorded any sort of assault, and they have surveilled all of these video cameras in this area where this assault was alleged to have transpired. But we're supposed to believe that there's an assault that happened and that these racist and homophobic individuals beat up Jussie Smollett, but there's no corroborating evidence of this assault outside of this so-called noose that was around Jussie Smollett's neck. And I'm looking at the evidence, and it's just not adding up as an assault, because in the case of an assault, again, you would have that video footage if it was an area like downtown Chicago, just like we have here in downtown Midtown Manhattan. And even in neighborhoods like the one I used to live in, Morrisania, we had cameras almost everywhere, and those cameras were recording almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there would be video footage to show us this assault transpiring. Now, Jussie Smollett says there was an assault, but their video cameras aren't saying it. And Jussie Smollett's actions, again, allow me to cast doubts regarding this alleged assault, because your Jussie Smollett, after allegedly being assaulted by these so-called MAGA supporters in downtown Chicago, a clearly blue state in a clearly Democratic area, your Jussie Smollett doesn't, again, want to file another police report. And after an assault like this and a threatening letter, I find it quite questionable that he did not want to file a police report. Because again, a police report is an official record that an assault has taken place and that the police are authorized to take action against individuals who have allegedly perpetrated this crime and start the due process to go under the law. But your Jussie Smollett, he does not want to file that police report for the second time, just like he could have filed it in Los Angeles, and he could have filed one with the FBI, but he doesn't want to do this in 3 separate cases. So that's where I cast doubts on his story, and I start having a hard time believing the credibility of his story, because again, an individual who has had a threat made against their life and has been assaulted, they are definitely going to want to see legal action taken by law enforcement. And your Jussie Smollett's actions that also cast doubts in my mind regarding this alleged assault is him not wanting to surrender his cell phone to law enforcement. Now, your Jussie Smollett says he was talking to someone as this alleged assault was transpiring, and that his phone was on at the time. But again, I find it questionable that this man does not want to surrender his cell phone to law enforcement so they can look at the cell phone records of this alleged assault and have more evidence to substantiate the case he is proposing of violence perpetrated against him happen. This is something that I find to be quite questionable, because if this happened, again, the person would be eager to go out here and get justice in this case. They would not be impeding the police department in their investigation by doing things like not filing police reports or going out here and not surrendering their cell phone to law enforcement so they can have the evidence to go out here and pursue this case. So I'm looking at Jussie Smollett's actions, and they're telling me that this wasn't an assault, and basically that this is a marketing stunt to get eyeballs on Fox's minstrel show Empire. And the reason why I believe that this is a marketing stunt is the timing of this alleged assault. Now, anyone who has worked in or studied the entertainment industry like I have over the last 30 years, we know that the end of January starts the sweeps month, which is February. And February sweeps are a critical period for television shows because during sweeps month, this is where TV shows have to have big ratings, because if you have the big ratings, then you can set higher advertising rates for your show. So sweeps month is getting ready to start, and I believe Empire is getting ready to come back to television. So if Empire is getting ready to come back to television, what they want to do is generate controversy for Empire to get eyeballs back focused on the show, which is about, I believe, about 4 or 5 years old. And when you have a television show that old, usually it starts to slip in the ratings, because when you have a TV show that's 4 or 5 years old, people have walked away from that show, and that show's ratings are on the decline. So they needed something to get people's attention back on Empire. And having people feeling sympathetic towards Jussie Smollett would be the thing to get people's eyeballs back on Empire, a minstrel show that degrades black people, and again, has me asking more critical questions, because the alleged perpetrators of this assault, the things that they said as they made these homophobic and racial slurs against Jussie Smollett was saying that he was on Empire and they saw him on Empire. Now, if you think critically about these so-called white supremacist MAGA supporters who are supposedly alleged to have assaulted Jussie Smollett, why would they be watching a show like Empire, which features a predominantly black cast and promotes racial stereotypes about black people and talks about hip-hop and music? So why would a white supremacist or a white nationalist who's alleged to be a so-called MAGA or Trump supporter watch a show that runs completely counter to their interests? And why would they want to recognize him from a show that runs completely counter to their interests? You would think these people would be watching something like your NCIS or one of these other shows, because that would be programming they would want to watch, because white people usually don't watch Empire, and they usually don't have an interest in a show like Empire. So that's another red flag for me as related to Jussie Smollett's story and Jussie Smollett's allegation that he was assaulted by these so-called MAGA supporters in a blue state run primarily by Democrats, and clearly an area, even though it was white, was clearly a liberal white area. So I look at that whole argument that Jussie Smollett is presenting regarding this alleged assault, and I'm not seeing 2 + 2 adding up to 4. What I'm seeing is 2 + 2 adding up to 5, and as that 2 + 2 adds up to 5, it shows me that this incident is a marketing stunt made by the producers of the Empire show to get people talking about Empire, get people talking about Jussie Smollett, and probably getting people focused on Jussie Smollett because they're getting ready to push Jussie Smollett on the show in a major storyline. Because usually when these studios do these marketing stunts, what happens is they do them with these entertainers. They have them go outside of the show and go outside in their real life and have something happen to them, and or they have something go on with them, move with a event that's going on where they say something controversial, and they use that as a springboard to get attention for their project. And I believe that they probably have a major storyline getting ready to happen with this Jussie Smollett's character, and that's why I believe they fabricated this whole assault so that people will start talking about Jussie Smollett, and then when Empire returns to television, they'll all start watching Empire, because usually that's how these marketing stunts usually go in the entertainment industry, and many of these stunts usually are scripted, choreographed, and planned well in advance, and they're done, again, to get your attention so that you can focus on whatever project or whatever product they're getting ready to push. So when I look at Jussie Smollett's actions, they show me that this is more of a marketing stunt, I believe, than an actual crime. Because your Jussie Smollett not filing any police reports shows me that this is more of a marketing stunt than anything else, because it is a felony to file a false police report in the state of California and the state of Illinois, and it is a federal crime to file a false police report with the FBI. So if your Jussie Smollett filed those police reports, he would have been in serious trouble, and he would have been prosecuted for filing false reports. So that's why I believe he didn't file any reports, and that's why he's hesitant to hand over his cell phone, which probably has incriminating evidence on it of phone calls to him and the producers regarding this botched marketing stunt. Because when it comes down to these marketing stunts, if they wind up botching, like I believe this one has botched, usually everybody will start distancing themselves, and they don't want people to find out that this was a clearly staged and choreographed marketing stunt. Because so a lot of these celebrities, they will go out here and even go out here and get arrested, all to get publicity for themselves, because in their minds they believe even bad publicity is good publicity, and any attention is good attention. So for them, that having Jussie Smollett being assaulted by these so-called MAGA supporters and in Chicago, this was a way to get eyeballs on Jussie Smollett, get sympathy for Jussie Smollett, and sympathy views for Empire, and get people watching a show that probably has had a ratings decline over the last couple of years. And in their eyes, the producers of the show, they believe if they can get those sympathy views during this sweeps month, what will happen is they can get the ratings up for Empire, and what that will do is raise the price for the advertising rates, and they can charge higher advertising rates for that show. So what they want to do is use this marketing stunt to get eyeballs on the show for this sweeps month, because during sweeps, again, they run all new episodes usually in February and then May, because you have two sweeps periods in the television season. You have February and you have May, and in those two periods, that's when the networks run all new episodes of their shows, and those shows come back to get the ratings, and those ratings are used to set the advertising rates for the show. So they would go out here and try to get the ratings up for Empire with this marketing stunt, again, because the show is 5 years old, I believe, and with it being an old show, the ratings are on decline. So what they want to do, again, is have that stunt with Jussie Smollett. Everybody's talking about him, and then all of a sudden we start seeing ads pop up for Empire, and that gets people watching Empire, because they start feeling sorry for Jussie Smollett, they start feeling sorry for his situation, and the controversy regarding it gets more casual eyeballs on this show, because people start thinking, oh, this is an attack on this so-called individual who was oppressed, and these MAGA supporters hate this show, so many people on the left will watch the show just because the MAGA supporters are alleged to have attacked an individual on the show. It's all social engineering, it's all mental manipulation, and many people don't see the big picture because they don't know the entertainment industry. But as someone who has studied the entertainment industry for over 30 years and has worked in part of it, I understand what is going on here as related to Jussie Smollett, I believe. And I believe that your Jussie Smollett was, yes, there was probably some self-inflicted violence against him, but I clearly believe that this is a marketing stunt because you have an individual who was still wearing the noose at the time the police came in, and was talking about, and there was no, again, video footage of this assault, which was alleged to have been perpetrated with bleach and was alleged to have been perpetrated with fists and things like that, but no recorded video footage of this incident ever transpiring on a downtown Chicago street where there are practically cameras everywhere. So when I look at this whole incident from a critical perspective as someone who knows the entertainment industry, the story just doesn't have the ring of truth. And because it doesn't have the ring of truth, I have a hard time believing that an assault was perpetrated against Jussie Smollett, and I have a hard time believing that Jussie Smollett wouldn't have taken constructive action to protect himself, knowing clearly that there was a clear and present danger against him. I mean, somebody gets a threatening letter in the mail with powder in it, that's going to make them think twice about things, and it's going to make them think to contact, authorities so that they can know what's going on. But instead of doing that, your Jussie Smollett decided to get on a plane and go to Chicago, and he decided to let people on social media know where he was going in Chicago, even after getting this letter. And I look at his actions, and they speak louder than the words of his story, and the actions he's telling me show me that this is a marketing stunt, and a very, very, very poor marketing stunt, because it's the type of marketing stunt that shows malice of forethought and no regard for the public or the public safety. And it was all about Jussie Smollett getting attention for himself at the expense of others and trying to use the victim card to get that attention. So he's showing me that he's a very unethical person if this is the case, because anyone who would lie about an assault like this and try to polarize people using race and sexual orientation, this is a very reprehensible human being, and they clearly are extremely egregious in their actions, because when I look at their actions, they show how completely unethical they are and how they will stoop to any sort of level to keep getting attention for themselves. And that type of person is someone you just have to become disgusted at, because if you would go to that level, there's no telling what type of depravity this type of individual could possibly participate in. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, the Temptation of John Haynes, and the Spinsterella trilogy, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.